Hi, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Boss versus Coach. What if the real test of coaching lies in distance, not conflict, not performance pressures, not deadlines, but distance? Because coaching was never about discussing by sitting across table, it was always sitting across issues, sitting across doubts. In today's world, which is remote first, we do coaching across time zones, across cities, across locations, across cultures, and across silence. There was a time when leadership relied on presence. Today, we rely on micro presence of mind. Earlier, we could sense energy in the room. Today, we must sense energy through pauses. Earlier, there were enough venues available to us, like those coffee machine conversations, talking with corridors, to build up relationships, build up engagements. Today, we are witnessing growing disengagement behind the muted microphones. So, the real question is not can coaching survive in the remote world, but the real coaching question is can we as coaches really build the essence of coaching without the comfort of proximity? Can we build psychological safety without physical safety? Can we really bring engagement and growth in our people whom we will never meet in person? The essence of coaching is now in the remote first world. And when I say so, I have a lot of substance, I have a lot of belief, I have a lot of ideas to support this statement. Before I pitch onto that, let's begin with tonight's conversation, which is on coaching in the remote first world. And I have with me Shanti Sharma. Shanti is the founder of Grow with Satori. Shanti has been a very regular contributor to Boss versus Coach, and she is someone who has taken up coaching not as a profession but as a passion. Shanti, welcome on the show. Your initial thoughts on coaching in remote first world.
Thank you, Mohit. And most of my coaching happens remote. So I truly believe it has helped me sharpen my craft. And it works very well. So I'm all for remote coaching. If you can contribute to a little bit of lesser carbon footprint, I'm all for it.
Shanti, how do I know if my team member is disengaged or just exhausted?
Lots of things. And I think you made a beautiful statement. Uh, More than just being present, it's about presence of mind. I love that phrase, Mohit. To me, I think when you're coaching remote, the room is not there. We would normally say, see what's happening in the room. And in the absence of the room, the coaching craft has been exposed. And we can't rely, there is no facial expression, no eye contact, there is no physical energy that you can gauge. So you have to depend on listening. A lot of listening happens. Your questions have to be really sharper. And it's you're observing breath, you're observing pauses, you're observing um, you know uh, dragged sentences when people are thinking what are they doing. When I'm face to face, it's very clear. When somebody is thinking, they're looking up and they're thinking, it's very obvious, but I cannot know why that pause when the screen does not show me the person's face. The tonality, the choice of words. I think the power of listening has to be really dialed up for the coach when they are coaching remotely.
No, well said. And Shanti, I believe that one of the reasons for disengagement has always also been that coaching in remote first world has reduced to being a managing of task. Like white people have been tagged as coaches, they've been tagged as mentors to many. They end up only supervising the performance of tasks. They end up only ensuring the timelines are met, and they fail to pick conversations beyond work. Conversations which are about your team member, conversations about how he or she is feeling. how he or she is looking at the team, how he or she is looking at you as a coach,
Mm.
and what is that you can help your team with. So, do you feel this is the one of the root causes why coaching in remote world needs a real evolution?
Absolutely. It needs a lot of evolution. And I think to a great extent, you are right, Mohit, when you say that it has become more like a check in, a status check in. When we meet a coachee in person, we start with, hey, how are you? How was the day so far been? Somehow, the ability to ask personal questions, get to know where they are in the moment is dialed up. But somewhere when we meet people virtually, all right, let's begin our coaching session in the and times are really squeezed somehow when we're in a virtual environment. Then the sessions, but the virtual coaching sessions end up being, what did you complete? What's the plan? Do you need my support? And let's hang up. Let's save some time. But I do feel that only these kinds of questions render the whole conversation as a performance conversation, status conversation, what next conversation, rather than it being a coaching conversation. I think a lot relies on the coach when they have to dial up their questions and ask, what patterns are we seeing? What's driving these patterns? We've seen similar kinds of things over the last few weeks. What have we been avoiding? What are we overdoing? What are we underdoing? I think a lot depends on the coach to observe these patterns across sessions, and they can't just deal with that 30-minute, 40-minute online session. That observation has to really expand across multiple sessions as they coach. So, is it diluting? The answer is yes, but can something be done about it? Yes. And a lot depends on the coach.
Well, absolutely something. In fact, I would strongly advocate that a lot needs to be done and must be done
Yeah,
because we are gonna continue on this remote first world for a long time, at least for the visible
absolutely.
future. And therefore, coaching has to mature. Coaching has to really become more senseful, more valuable, and more value created for the person to be. So that's my
Absolutely.
my clear view. Shanti, I often hear from my colleagues and some of my coaches also comes to me and say that they face this challenge of building trust with their
Hmm.
teams whom they have never met. So they are given a team which is scattered all over the place with at times with different time zones, and there is no possibility, at least a visible one, to meet them in person at any point of time. How, in that situation, can a coach begin his journey, build up that trust that the other person who the coachee feels like coming to him, not like a manager, but like a coach?
Yeah. I'll start with a short story, Mohit. During COVID, while I was still working for the corporates, I had team members who joined during COVID and also left during COVID. They had never seen the physical workspace. Laptops were sent to their homes, and when they left, laptops were picked up from their homes. I had never met them in person. We had only seen them on the Teams windows. Um, and it is very difficult to build that trust when we're just working remotely. And a big reason when they exited was I never felt that I was a part of the organization.
Very true.
That yeah. So um, it is very difficult to build trust, and it cannot be left to accidentally building trust by being nice and kind and empathetic. I think trust has to be built through consistency. Trust has to be built through setting clear boundaries for both the coach and the client, where, and again, it's the coach's responsibility to help the client set the boundaries. They may not know where and how to set the boundaries. By building that psychological safety of they are free to share whatever they choose to, and that it'll remain between the two of us. Yeah. And keeping small promises. Sure, I will send you the article, remembering to send that article. Or, oh, I read a blog and I'm going to share with you that blog. It may sound like a very small thing, but if your client has to follow up with you saying, hey, you said you're going to send me that blog and I'm still waiting for it, I think that slowly starts to dilute that trust. um, yes, trust is um, less about proximity, but if you find an opportunity to connect beyond the coaching conversation, once the coaching conversation is done or before the coaching conversation has begun, can we get to know the coachee a little bit better? What's happening in your life? What's happening with your things that are important to you? Maybe some sport or maybe some hobby. Um, and being vulnerable enough to share that so that the coachee also feels that it's an exchange of information and not an interrogation. I think there are these small actions that the coach has to consistently keep doing session after session when sessions are only remote and virtual.
So Shanti, you pointed out about people joined and left virtually.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's the story with many of us, and that's there's a large base, the work base, which is currently only engaged remotely. And I say
Yeah.
only engaged remotely, that accept that appointment letter which is physically signed. I think nothing, and I think that too was getting digitally signed now.
Digitally
There's
signed,
they
yes.
have which can get them the belongings. So the company accept that visiting card, the ID card, or the email ID. Now that in the remote world, I think even some of them doesn't get the visiting cards and ID cards, they only get the email ID.
Yeah.
In these cases, what I have observed that the biggest challenge comes for the coach, firstly in building trust, which you have rightly explained. Secondly, in holding back the high performing talent that starts feeling drained out.
Yeah.
So they require an extra amount of care, an extra amount of uh, mentorship, extra amount of reviews, extra amount of conversations. How to hold back those talent pool, which is high on aspirations, high on performance, and have expectations very clear beyond just those online conversations.
Lovely question. I Few things that come to top of my mind is one that building trust should never stop. Yeah, trust is not an event, it is a process. You don't build trust once and leave it that it's built. With high performers, I think in a remote world, there has to be this constant acknowledgement that has to be offered to them, saying that you are doing well, this is what is expected of you, continue doing well. Even questions like how can I help you be better version of yourself, what needs to happen so that you can perform better, needs to constantly be asked to them. Just because they are doing an amazing job, we don't need to hold them at that place as a manager, because if they grow, they become bigger, better, maybe they get a better opportunity. That may be my fear, that they're doing a great job at this position, let me hold them there. I think we have to let go that fear and um, have those conversations that is focused around growth, around their development, around where they want to see their career grow, not just because I need you to be at this place at this time. Um, that enables us to retain higher performers in the organization, may or may not be in your team. And I think that should never be the objective. If you're trying to retain them within your team or in that same role, chances are you will lose them sooner. Yeah, so it's better than getting them somewhere better in the organization, because they are going to be your advocates. They're going to help you train and build the next level of people that you can trust. So that cycle will start once you help your people grow.
Very nice thought. So Shanti, that's bringing us close to the ending of this podcast. Any quick thoughts, any takeaways you would like to share for the coaches or the coaches who are who must be viewing this podcast or who must be watching Boss versus Coach, and who are dealing with this remote first world, on how can they pick up their roles much more seriously, how can they bring the real impact out of coaching and can make people feel, like you mentioned initially, that people have complained that they are not part of the organization, they didn't felt like, make them feel that they are the one, make them feel that there is an inclusive ecosystem and they are a part of that ecosystem. How can they do that?
Let me try and answer that. Um, I had a Japanese client and I had seen her, we had spoken over Zoom quite a lot. And then once she said, Shanti, is it okay if I don't turn on my camera? I've got allergy on my face and I'm not comfortable turning it on. And I said, yes. Um, little bit skeptical about, oh my God, there won't be anything to see. I'm just going to be listening. It did, I was very nervous. But at the end of the conversation, I realized that throughout the session, I had my eyes closed. I shut down the other senses that could distract me, and the only sense that was really powerful and strong at that time were ears. And that's the way I was sitting. Ki, ha, go on, go on, go on. And we were having such a lovely conversation. Funnily, 2 weeks later, when we met, she was absolutely fine. She said, Shanti, last conversation was so powerful. I know you could not see me, I could not see you, but I think the takeaways were far deeper. So, after exchanging pleasantries and what has been going on in the last 2 weeks, when we started the coaching conversation, we again, both of us turned off our video, and till date, that's how we go. That, we do see each other. How are things? What's happening? What's your daughter doing? Or we have those uh, early chit chat. And when the coaching begins, okay, what is it that you want to talk about today? And it's a by default thing that both of us will go and hit, the button that switches off the video. And then the conversations are really magical. What helped me was to set those boundaries of, if nothing is clear, you need me to call out a question again. You don't understand, don't wait, ask. Yeah. And we said, let's define the outcome. What would make our conversation today meaningful for both of us? Yeah. So we start with that, and that's when we turn off the camera. Um, and as I said, I think uh, with focus, and you really turn off all the other distractions. The While I'm coaching, I think the two senses, sight and hearing, are the only two really active senses. And when I'm closing one, I think the hearing becomes so powerful. It's really at the deep level. Earlier, I don't think I would have ever heard her breath or focus so much on pauses as compared to when I was closing my eyes and I was like listening to everything, and I could actually visualize her saying those things. I think that's the tip I would leave people with. Um, Today it is remote, at least we have cameras on, and there's nothing that should stop us from asking them to turn on their cameras. I think seeing is a lot more information than just hearing. Seeing and hearing is a very powerful combination, but it is also possible to coach just through hearing. And the more you strengthen your hearing, the more successful you would be in your conversation.
Very powerful takeaway, Shanti. At least for me, the more you develop your hearing, the more powerful you can be in the coaching conversation. So, viewers, that brings us close to the podcast. As we close today's discussion, one thing which is very clear is that remote working may have taken away the cabins, the corridors, the coffee conversation, but what they have given to you is an opportunity of coaching, which is much more deeper, much more effective, and much more impactful. People still need someone who can coach them, who can listen to them, who can challenge them, who can guide them, who can believe in them. Technology may have changed the format, but it will not change the purpose. The truth remains the same that great coaching is not about proximity, it's about connection. If you are a coach, you can connect with your team no matter how far they are, because the connection has to go from your mind to their heart. They must feel connected, they must feel coming to you, and that's where the magic starts unfolding. On that note, thank you very much. Have a great weekend and a great week ahead. Keep watching Boss versus Coach and do share feedback as to how, as a coach, you are dealing with the remote first world. Thank you, Shanti. It was nice,
Thank you,
lovely
Mohit.
conversation. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Bye.